But many lawmakers on Capitol Hill have a different vision for America. We spoke to one of them last week who just introduced new pro-life legislation.
I tell people all the time, it's not pro-life versus pro-choice. It's pro-life versus pro-abortion.
Congresswoman Mary Miller represents Illinois' 15th district. Inspired by Senator Mike Braun, she just introduced legislation known as the Dignity for Aborted Children Act. 4 years ago this September, just across the border of her district in Indiana, the remains of over 2,000 aborted children were found in the home of abortionist Ulrich Klopfer. Miller's bill would require that the remains of abortion children be handled just as any other deceased person, and failure to comply could result in a fine and up to 5 years in prison.
For one thing, we need to honor that that child was created in God's image and dignify the child by having the remains of the child disposed of in the same way that we would any child that died. And so we're going to require the abortion providers to do that, or they will be face civil penalties.
She also recently introduced the Parental Notification and Intervention Act. She explained how this bill would protect young girls who might be contemplating abortion.
What it's going to do is that providers, when they have a young girl, a minor, that is seeking an abortion, they have to notify the parents and give them 4 days, allow them 4 days to intervene. You know, one of the safeguards for our children, they're young, they're easily duped, they don't have life experience. Parents are there to protect their children, and it's sinful and it's evil to go around parents. I recently questioned 3 of Joe Biden's cabinet secretaries, the Secretary of Labor, Education, and Health and Human Services, and I can tell you this, that they are going around parents, all of them.
When we asked her why these bills are needed now, Miller reflected on the impact of the Supreme Court decision that overturned Roe v. Wade, and stressed the importance of continued work to end abortion as the issue is debated in state legislatures.
50 years ago, the Supreme Court failed to honor the most basic right enumerated in the Declaration of Independence, the right to life. And we have a very sad stream of death and destruction in the wake. But thankfully, there have been people that have taken up the fight and have continued in that, and that's why we are where we are now. We have a lot of work to do.
These bills aren't Miller's only efforts to defend life and family on the Hill.
I also recently started the Congressional Family Caucus to stand up for traditional family, you know, a mom and a dad as ordained by God, raising their children. We need to stand up for the family, which is the foundation of our culture, actually.
For Miller, all her pro-life work goes back to her growing family and stressing the value of all human life.
Well, we have 7 children. They're adults now. If I could push the reverse button, I would. Those were the best years of my life. I loved it. And I want to encourage people to enjoy raising their children and to be willing to welcome children. And then now we have 20 grandchildren. Our one daughter, her 6th baby that she gave birth to, has Down syndrome, and he's 3. His name's Nathaniel, which means a gift from God. And then our other daughter had 2 sons of their own, and they had the opportunity to adopt an infant. He was 1 day old who had Down syndrome. And they named him Theodore. So at first I was like, oh, Theodore. But they call him Teddy Bear. Oh, he's so cute. He's 1 year old. And I hope someday that they could join me and we would have the opportunity to introduce them to the world as the gifts that they really are.